Do you know how to play endgames? From this video, you will learn key positional principles and rules of endgames, and I bet you never saw such insane combination like in first example. My name is Pavel Martinov, and welcome you on my YouTube channel, and let's start. So we can see that white has clear advantage because black pawn structure is bad and the d5 pawn is really weak, and black pieces needs to pay attention for d5 pawn to defend it. White pieces are more active. So, but the key question is how to transfer this advantage to the point in the tournament sheet, how to play with white. So let's see how it was in the game. King e1 here, bishop b3. The key factor of the endgame that you need to be hurry up but slowly. So as we can see, black can't find any counterplay, so white don't need to be hurry, and they have a time to create something, to bring their pieces to the best positions, and after this find a real opportunity to transfer this advantage. So it was g3, just trying to cut a king and prevent f4 counterplay somewhere. Back, king d2, g5, and here we can see that white wants to improve the knight position to b4, maybe to push him to c6 in some occasion, and to make a pressure to d5 pawn as well. So king knight on b4 will be really better than on c3. And actually after some moves we can see that black needs to only stay in the place and wait for white. And white, again, they don't need to be rushed. They have lots of time. And that's why we can see that white repeated somewhere even the moves. And actually they transferred a position a bit. So the idea is to play knight c6 somewhere to start an active play. But white needs to find the right occasion to make this. They need to bring all the pieces to the best positions, and at the same time they need to have black pieces on the worst position. So what I mean, you will see in future, I mean, like after some moves we can see that the position is repeated one time. I mean that we had the same position in previous, but actually right now it's black to move. And after they played king f6, we can see that the king is quite far away from queen side, so you need a step more to e6 to bring him to d7. And after white waited for this, they started to play active and they pushed knight to c6. Right now black, they have a hard deal. They have a possibility to play a5, how it was in the game, and they have a possibility to take on c6. As we can see, they need to take by the bishop, because if they will take by the knight, the position is really ugly. I mean, we can see the difference in the bishops, and it's hard for black to save d5 pawn, and they will lose anyway. So the idea is that they need to take on c6 by bishop, and after here, they need to play a6, because other way, white wants to play c7 and bring bishop to d7, and black needs to play somewhere b5 to prevent this bishop to d7. So that's why they're playing a6 to have a b5 opportunity in future. King b4 and king e6, and right now it's hard for white to win because like c7 giving right now nothing. So white needs to think how to win this position, and they can outsmart the opponent with a really tricky silent move h3. You will see the follow idea. So after, for example, knight c8, black just trying to stay in a place and keep the position. White idea is to play f4, and after some moves, c7 and b5, the idea is to prevent this bishop, to cut him off from this diagonal. White has a really nice possibility to take, and take on b5. And the idea is that right now in this position, white can create a passing pawn on h-file. And as we can see, they have this pawn, they have this pawn, and they have this pawn ready to be passing pawn. And black can't defend this position. You can just try to make it by your own, but it's impossible to defend the position, and white will win anyway. So let's return to the main line. So a5, as I told, was in the game. And right now, white made a brilliant move that really can cut your eyes. I mean, they took on a6 and they sacrificed a piece. So we need to move, and after this we will see the main idea. Bishop takes on c6 and king b4. Again, white wants to take on c6 somewhere and to push king to b5 and to b6 later. The king will support a pawn and they will win. So the only one move for black is to go away from the bishop to avoid this exchange on c6. Bishop d7. Just we cut this king from the queen side, and we want to bring our king to b5. So knight at c6 here, and f4 is just the only one counterplay that black has in this position. Other way, white will take on b6 and they will win because of this strong passing pawn. And actually this guy is really ugly. He's staying on the corner doing nothing. And right now, another brilliant move from white that will definitely caught your eyes. They played bishop c6. It's a great sacrifice that giving white a winning position. So after take on e3, we will take on a8. Seems that black will promote a queen, but after takes, queen appears, bishop c6, white has still winning position because the pawn is passing above after a7 and a8, and black, even they have a queen, they can't stop the pawn. So in the game was here, a7 took on d4, king b7, here, and a8 will be next move. So white are winning this position after this here. So I mean that the queen disappeared from the board and white has extra bishop. But anyway, the other key factor about the endgame that you need to be careful, even if you have a winning position, you need to play really right and really strict according to the logic to win this position, to bring your advantage to the final point. So after king e5 here we will see how white transferred this position into win. h3. So black may be trying to find some counterplay with king going here, take on h2 and trying to promote, but as we can see, it's too much moves, so white will do something. Bishop d7, b7, d4. So we're stopping the pawn, so we can take on d3. Next move, here, and right now white as well can use a tactical trick, f4, and actually in this position black resign, just because after this I want to pass my pawn, and if black will take on d3, the best move for white is to pay attention to this passing pawn as well and to play king e6 to prevent d5, and they want to push f5 or f6, f7 and f8 with the queen. So as we saw from this position, I mean from this game, we learned that first of all you need to be hurry, but need to do it slowly. I mean, if your opponent doesn't have a counterplay, you can bring your pieces to the best positions and create your own play. You need to pay attention always for opponent counterplay, and you always, again I will repeat it, you need to bring all your pieces to the best positions and find the right moment when your opponent is not ready, he didn't place his pieces to the best positions to create a final touch and bring your advantage to the final point. So let's move to the second example, again endgame. So how to play in this position with white? In the game, white played knight g5, and it's actually a really tricky move because white wants to start to play active, and actually they want to bring the knight from e4 later to c5 to make some noise here on the queen side, because white bishop on g2 is really will be really brilliant this way because he will support an attack. So white defined queen side as a flank where they will start their active play. So bishop d7, black wants to rescue a bishop here, goes to g5 with the bishop. So white actually wants to have a pair of bishop after knight f6. They want to transfer the position in a good side, and actually that was in the game. Here takes on d7. After black can take on g5, and after this white will play knight c5 here. And actually here white need to think about the prophylaxis as well. It's one of the key factors of the endgame, that you always need to count the counterplay of your opponent and try to prevent it. And prophylaxis is a nice strategical tool that will help you in the endgame. White can play here h3. The idea is to prevent g4, because this guy, I mean on g7, this bishop, is really ugly because he cut it off from the game by his pawns g5 and e5. So that's why black needs to play g4 somewhere to open the diagonal for the bishop. And white wants to prevent it by playing h3, because after g4 they will just take on g4 and have an extra pawn. So keep in mind this tool, because it will be very useful in the practical games for you. So took on d7, return to e3. So we can see that all bishops are looking for the queen side. So that's why white wants to make some active play on the queen side. Rook b8, and white played rook c1. Actually, it's a nice move. I mean to play this rook to c1, not the rook from the a file, just because we need this rook maybe somewhere on b file to create some b4, because our idea to have a game on this side, and both rooks on c1 and b1 will support a white strategy. And by the way, by the rook c1, we are trying to connect the king to the center by king f1 and later maybe king e1. I mean that other main factor, one of the main factors, that in the end game your king needs to go to the center, because from the center he will be really active. He can move to the both flanks of the board, and in the end game it's really hard to have a checkmate attack on your king because queens disappeared, and so the tension level is not that hard, not that much. So here king f1, we are bringing the king to the center, and as well we want to defend the e pawn to make this knight free from defending this pawn. And black here made a mistake. They made a mistake. The best move was king g8. The same idea. Black wants to bring their king to the center, bring him to the game. But black played c5. It's a mistake because no one forced them to play on the queen side, and no one forced them to create some weak pawn on c5 that white can use in their own game. So keep in mind the rules that never play on the flank where you're really weak. So that's a bad move. Rook b1. White wants to play b4 somewhere. b6 here. They just played b4. Here, rook c8, return to b1, because white wants to fight for the c file. They need to defend the rook on c1 to have ability to take by the rook. Here, bishop d2. White, here, they don't need to hurry, because again, it's hard to find the real counterplay for black. They are ready for massive exchanges on the c file, but white wants to place all pieces to the best positions. So how it was in the game here, e3, just the idea is to let this knight go away from the center. And right now white ready to exchanges, so that's what's in the game. a6, back to c3, and we can see that the powerful bishops are here on the board, and actually because of the pair of bishops white has a clear advantage. And actually from the practical side it's quite hard to defend such type of positions for black side. So we will see how it was in the game. Here king e2, king goes to the center, and by the way defending the pawn on d3. Finally king g8, black wants to bring the king as well, g4. So white wants to improve their space advantage as well by g4 and force this knight to go to d6 to not that because he will be not that good like he was on f5 on this square here. And actually, best move here was bishop f6, or like the idea is to have a move on d8 to prevent some attention to b6 pawn, because the b6 pawn is quite weak. So king f8 was actually possible, but white can play knight d5, and we can see that this pawn is really weak. So that's why bishop f6 was maybe the best move, but black played bishop f8 in this position, and actually that move is really not that strong, because knight e5. So again, this pawn is really big problem for black. For example, if they will play knight c8 to defend the b pawn, white has a d4, takes, and after bishop e3 here, just play to d7, and white will win a pawn. And from the technical side, this position is winning for white. So that's why black tried to make some counterplay and played f5, but actually it's too late. After takes, just clear winning position for white. And in the game was e4, and after some moves, as we can see, white won a game. So they want to take on a6 right now, here, a4, here, bishop a8, and black played a5 in this position. And actually after this move they even resigned, because we can see that after takes on b4, takes a5, it's really impossible to stop this pawn, and white has a winning position because of this really very strong pawn. So in this game we saw that white started to play active, and they had a plan to make a pressure to queenside. So in the endgame you always need to have some plan what to do. And actually after position transferred to the pair of bishops, white played really nice. They followed their plan of playing on queenside, and finally they won. So it was a nice example. So from this video we learned some basic principles of endgames, and we saw two nice examples on it. Actually, endgames is a really complicated sphere in chess. If you want to learn more about it, subscribe to my YouTube channel and take private lessons with me via my website PavelChess.com. Have a nice day.